Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Great to see so many people on bright and early and ready to go. So looking through the list and the waiting room, many of you I've met and some of you many years ago. Others might not know who I am. My name is Harry Welby-Cook and I'm the regional country partner for ActionCOACH in Southern Africa. And really excited to have you join us this afternoon for what is a series of launches. You might have seen over the last couple of weeks, we had our Action Nation launch in October. We did our full rebrand launch week before last at our national franchise conference. We've got this launch now and then a series of events planned next year. But nice to have you join us and invest your most precious asset, which is your time. But why are you here? And what are we trying to achieve by having you here for this afternoon? And I think the most important thing to understand is ActionCOACH is going through not just a rebrand, but a complete reinvention. And what does that mean to you? Because so what? We're a company, we've been around a long time. We'll talk a little bit about that. But what's in it for you as the reinvention? And traditionally, there's been two kind of stakeholders in our business. The one has been our team of coaches, our team of franchise partners that often use this as their second career, their second part of life, where they've gathered some experience. They really love business and people, and they become part of our team and they impart coaching services. And then, of course, the other side of the business has traditionally been mainly entrepreneurs, business owners themselves, that need input, need guidance, need support, need somebody to talk to, need accountability so that the overall elements of business can get the right focus. And I remember a couple of years ago sitting in the chair with my eye specialist and we were talking about business and he said, Harry, I don't run a business. And I said, how is that possible? And he said, those two ladies at the front, they actually run the business and seemingly they do a half decent job because at the end of the month, there's still money left for me. I said, well, that's quite concerning. He says, of course it is. He said, I know there's so much more I need to do. He says, but I've been trained to be an eye specialist and I know nothing about business. I said, but aren't you also a shareholder in the eye hospital? And he said, if you want to come see a disaster, come to one of our board meetings and you'll see how there's many of us that have no idea what we're doing. And I think that's the sad indictment of society today. That's really where we find ourselves. Still in 2025, people go into business where they have a passion for the product or the service. They've seen a gap, they've seen an opportunity, and they've gone into business. But where do we learn these skills? And now we're getting even faster paced change thrown at us. And if we go back to the advert that brought ActionCOACH to South Africa in the first place in 2007, it said, are you passionate about business and helping others? And fast track to 2025, I think that's still the standard for every single one of us. We love business, but people run businesses. And now more than ever, and that's something that hasn't changed, is our vision for the last 32 years globally. It's about using business as a catalyst, business as a vehicle to create abundance, because that's not something we're used to. And often in business, we're trying to fight for a slice of the pie instead of bake more pies, so to speak. And it was interesting this week reading an article again where 1.5% of South Africa's population, 1.5%, pays 60% of the income tax. Now, you might look at that and go, well, that's fine. Those that earn more should pay more. Then we also look at things that say, well, the biggest contributor to the fiscus, to tax, is actually the personal income tax payer. And business is second, and then we've got all sorts of other taxes, of course, that SARS are good at extracting. Well, here's the reality. Nobody pays tax other than business. Now, yes, maybe if you had a really, really rich grandparent, great grandparent, they've left you a family trust, you're sitting back doing nothing, living off that. Yes, then maybe originally it was a business. Today you're just free riding. But last I checked, no business I've ever had or interacted with do the staff pay tax. I pay the tax. You pay the tax. It goes from the business bank account to SARS bank account, and let it not be a minute late. So if that business wasn't there to be profitable, to be sustainable, to be thriving, then there would be no personal tax. Often with things like customs and excise taxes, the taxes are paid long before the business even takes place. So in 2025, we don't have a subject called sales at any university. We don't have a subject called recruitment. We do everything after the people have joined the business in HR, but getting the right people on board, doesn't happen. So quick history lesson. ActionCOACH started in Australia in 1993 on the East Coast in a little town, not so little anymore, called Brisbane, by a young Australian that's still involved in the business called Brad Sugars. Fast track from 1993 to 2025, and we today operate in 85 countries around the world, the latest two being added to that list, Mongolia and Italy. And our sole focus is creating thriving businesses. And as I said, a very young Australian, not so young anymore, Brad Sugars, got to the point as an accountant saying, but we can manage the money, but that's not good enough. How do we create this scale? How do we create this growth? And I heard a story today that I've heard so many, many times before in different contexts. A couple in their mid-70s looking to sell their business, looking to retire. And the reality is their life savings is built into that business. And they might, if they get their selling price, which the selling price is a little overinflated, they're probably not going to get that. They might be able to live off the proceeds of their business for 2 years and 6 months. And then they will run out of money. Now, that's not why you should be in business. And I think the danger with business is that business is generally run, whether it's private business or bigger structured corporate business. Leaders are generally hardworking, passionate, glass half full kind of people. And that's necessary for the role. The downside of a lot of leaders in business and business owners are that they are hardworking, passionate, glass half full kind of people. Because what happens? We wake up earlier in the morning and we run faster and harder into the same brick wall. And that's not sustainable. So with this reinvention comes our ActionCOACH business operating system. That's ABOS. ABOS is a business operating system, and our manifesto. And you'll find it on our website, you'll find it on social media, probably be a bit small on your screen. But behind every successful ABOS installation is a business owner that sleeps better at night, is a spouse that gets to spend time at home, a family that gets to grow up together, because we spend more time at work than we will with our loved ones. Our biggest stress point in life is often career, and especially the higher you up you go, the business itself. Solve the business issues and you fix relationships. Health gets better. We actually take holidays, enjoy the world, and we get the business to serve us instead of the other way around. So maybe in the chat box, type this in the meantime. How's business? And anybody that knows me knows that's my favorite question to ask. I don't like talking about the weather. I ask, how's business? And type it in. Let's see how business is for you. But often I hear things like, yeah, not too bad. I suppose it could be better. I suppose it could be worse. Lots to be grateful for. Been a tough year, ending well, tired, overwhelmed. These are typically the things I hear when I ask, how's business? More importantly, the follow-up question is the one that haunts me. Are you making enough money? Now, many business owners, many people in business prided themselves in COVID in 2020 to keep their staff employed, to keep the doors open, to keep the business running, to be sustainable. They borrowed money, they mortgaged properties, they put more money in to keep the business afloat. And that's the right thing to do as a leader. When time is tough, you have to knuckle down and do what you need to do. But has that money been returned? Has that money been returned to the individuals, not the institutions? Because if you borrowed the money, they wanted the money back. You paid them back, you paid interest, it was no problem. Has the money been returned to the individuals, the owners, the management, the executives that put money in? And have they got the interest? And have they caught up the loss of profitability? And often that question around, are you making enough money? The reality is no. For the amount of effort I'm putting in and the return I'm getting out, there's a disconnect. And therefore, there's a couple of things that stay the same. In our reinvention, in our rebrand, it's about creating thriving businesses, not okay businesses, not businesses that are, doing okay, sort of okay, making money, doing well. No, thriving businesses, because we need to bake more pies. We need to get more of that ripple effect to run into different areas of the economy through profitable businesses. Now, profitable businesses is not a swear word, because profit in business dictates that there's a surplus. That's all it is. Now, that surplus could be small or it could be massive. But profit, all it is a surplus. Well, that's a universal law that is required for sustainability. If we are not growing, we are dying. That's my health, my mindset, my knowledge base, my relationships, my business, the universe, the trees outside. If there is not growth, there is death. And business needs to therefore have a surplus to sustain growth. So the first thing is to get the stability. And stability is a problem because in our 4 areas of mastery, the first one is, where are you going? What is the destination? And often the reality is, I'm not quite sure, or I've lost my way, or, I think I know, but do all the people working for me? Am I geared to make money, create that fair profitability, which is the financial mastery? Our only finite resource, time mastery, and then the ability to deliver. And as businesses grow, the foundation needs more work, because it's like putting in a foundation, building a 1-story building. No problem. The minute you want to build 2 stories on that same foundation, you need stronger foundations. And that stability is an ongoing effort to get the stability right, so that we can then create marketing. And marketing is becoming so important today because most of sales actually gets done in the marketing phase. People do their research. They respond to things. They need to see you in the background over and over again. Marketing allows for margin. Marketing allows for repeat business. And therefore, we have to break down what we think about business into different steps so that we can actually make some surplus cash. Long before profit, to have cash. Because cash needs to go into providing systems. Systems run businesses. People run systems. If it's the other way around and the people are all over the place and there's not systems that are structured, then it's a very emotional, erratic, irrational, week in and week out. So people run systems, systems run the business. And when we've got that, we have the time available to invest into people, to invest into team. Because the reality is, people, like children, in an organization, spell love, T-I-M-E. They need time. They need appreciation. They need training. They need care. They need guidance. They need support. And where do we get that from? Well, we get that from the systems that run the business. And then we get to the point where we're now ready to scale. Now, a lot of people want to grow the business to a point and then they want to stop. No problem. Then bring somebody on board that you can guide, mentor, and they can scale it for you. Because then you get to the point where you can keep it, sell it, and you have the ultimate freedom. So the structure of building the business is critical. And that stays the same. That hasn't changed. But here is the reality. If you do the same thing over and over again, the same old thinking, the same old approach, the same old actions, you get the same old results. Now, some of you are already clients of ours, which is wonderful. And we know that we are spoiled in our world. We had one of our clients talk at our conference at Zabula 2 weeks ago, and he was saying that despite being in business for 30 years, family business, second generation taking over, they now make the same amount of turnover that they used to make in a year every quarter. They now make the same amount of profit they used to make every year. They now make that every month. Now, we are spoiled. We think that's normal. Of course, that's not normal. But they can't do the same thing. And as we get to the end of the year, many of us, maybe you are one of them, that are chasing our tail so we can cut off on the 12th, on the 15th, maybe on the 24th, and run away and have a break, eat too much, drink too much, rest a bit, and we're going to come back next year and we're just going to hit the reset button and do the same thing. Doesn't work. And Einstein defined that many, many, many moons ago as the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Now, more recently, he drives for my team, so I've had to learn to love old Lewis Hamilton after a bad run of form. Said something that I think every single one of us need to consider. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, then why are you doing it? Why are you doing something if you're not enjoying it? And maybe a more appropriate South African saying that you will all relate to is, if it's not working anymore, you need to change something. So what are some of the fundamentals that haven't changed? Well, some of the fundamentals in business that haven't changed is you have a lot of hats that you have to wear. Business requires sales, marketing, finance, HR, IT, admin, planning, and many, many, many others. They need to be done. Now, can they be augmented through AI? Of course. Can they be supported through systems? For sure. Do people play a role in some or all of those? Almost guaranteed every single time. The biggest IT companies in the world that we all use their technology for to run our businesses have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of employees. Can you imagine being Jeff Bezos, Apple, and having way more than 1 million employees? I know people that struggle to manage 5 employees. Can you imagine a million? So that stays the same. The other thing that stays the same is, where does our business fit in for you? When people say, how does this coaching thing work? Simple. Where are you? Point A. Where do you want to be? Point B. If that's the same place, if you are very close to where you want to be, you don't need coaching. It's like a sports team saying, well, we won the World Cup last year. We're quite happy. We're not going to try so hard again this year. If we win it, great. If we don't, it's okay. No problem. You are where you want to be. But if there's a gap, well, then you need a bridge to get across that gap. And it's going to take both time, energy, and money to go from where you are to where you want to be. Now, the reality is, as we've reinvented, as we've transformed, we're no longer just a business coaching company. Yeah, in 1993, we had one offering, one-to-one business coaching purely for entrepreneurs. The world has changed, and so have we. It is no longer enough just to do that. So as a combination, some of these we've been doing for a while. Some of these are relatively new. Some of these are going a lot deeper into different areas. Is people are needing guidance from different angles and different perspectives. Our coaches are coming from different angles, different perspectives. And therefore, whether it be entrepreneurs, whether it be executives, whether it be CEOs and founders, whether it be your life, you need the synergies of getting things to fall into place and go along a given path to take you from where you are to where you want to be. And therefore, a lot of our philosophies are broader than just coaching today. There will be training, there will be consulting, there will be management, but we install those topics in your business. So some of you might have been part of one of our 12-week programs. Some of you might be thinking, geez, but I've got a management issue. Great. So we have a 12-week management program that we install in your business with you over 12 weeks. The right amount of input, the right amount of work, the right amount of tailor making so that you stagger the implementation. Otherwise, knowledge is just in and out. And people are fascinated today by AI. Well, it's a great tool, and I hope you're already using it. But before AI, everything the human being knew was available on Google for free. Still is. It's available on YouTube for free to watch a video. If we go back further, it used to be called a library card. You didn't need a smartphone, you needed a library card. And you had access to all the information the human being had put together and collated. Well, then why don't we implement it? Why don't we use it? And I'll come back to that. So some of you looking at the list of who's all on board will remember this logo. This goes back to 2007 when we launched in South Africa. We just come through a global rebrand. The head office moved from Australia to the States, and we became ActionCOACH Business Coaching. Great colors, blue and red, vibrant. And previously to that, we actually had orange, believe it or not, with Action International, which the business was called. Now, just like the world is changing, so have we needed to adapt. And just like you get a facelift on a model of a vehicle, we went through a facelift a couple of years ago where we went from small caps, big caps, slight changes of the colors, because you and your business should constantly be tweaking and changing and adapting to the circumstances, to society, to shifts, to changes. And today, many of you have already seen it. You'll see a lot more of it. We've gone from that more corporatized IBM blue of the 80s to something fresh, to something vibrant, to something energetic, as we play a much more holistic role in businesses. And there will be yet another launch coming up towards the end of November, where we actually launch our ActionCOACH Business Operating System, the IT system behind the coach, to now track, to have dashboards, to check where your business is at, so that you can see holistically where you're making progress and where not. And it's no longer just a spreadsheet somewhere hidden away or a session with your coach. There's actually a login, and you and your team can get much more robust in running a good, successful organization. Now this goes across the board. I was working with a CFO recently, and their business is shifting. Their business is changing. The dynamic between the C-suite execs are changing. The need to manage stakeholders upwards, being the CEO, the board of directors, the shareholders externally. Now, all of that is great in a corporate business because it's generally quite structured. Well, do we have that in private business? Often not enough. And somebody said to me the other day, no, but I have got a board of directors. Fantastic. Who's on it? Well, my brother-in-law our operations manager, our accountant, and my dad. No disrespect to any of those people, but that's not quite how an independent board should be designed and structured. So we're going to put in the operations through the ABOS system, but then also help with the strategic view at the higher level. And as we went through the evolutions, most recently you would have seen real people, real results. That's exactly what we do. We work with real people, delivering demonstrable, real results. Because if you're not getting results, you should not have a coach, or you maybe should get a new coach, much like happens on the sports field. Speaking of sports field, before that, you might have remembered, if you've been around a long time, which looking through the list, some of you have, coaching not just for sports. Now, why does a sports person take on a coach? For a sport that they've been playing since they were wee high. Because they're trying to extract maximum potential. They're trying to win, whatever winning looks like and is designed for them. And they're getting results. So extracting potential, defining what is winning and going after that, and getting results. That's why they do it. Well, the rules don't change, do they? All the time. They have an off season. They have downtime. They have a range of external specialists to one individual. Hell, Ibn Etzebeth, big, burly South African famous rugby player, doesn't even have to carry his own bag, make his own food, gets a rub down after each match. Can you imagine if you had that in your business? Wow, how cool would that be? Yet we feel sorry for the sports players. Really? They're working too hard. Fascinating. So maybe you should look in the mirror around your own business. And therefore, we've gone from coaching not just for sports to real people, real results, to now take action, get results. Because here is the reality. The answers are available everywhere. Google, YouTube, library card, AI, people around us. Do we act on it? Do we act on it? And some businesses have got a built-in support system, somebody to talk to, somebody to kind of share ideas, and accountability. I mean, expected to do something by some time. A lot of other businesses don't have that. But it is the actions we take that dictate our results. Now, here's the sad reality. Somebody said to me the other day, they said, but Harry, I also work hard. And my results aren't what I see in other people. And nobody says you don't work hard. In fact, most people in business work hard, the good ones especially. But that doesn't guarantee success. It is about the decisions we make, but it's also about the decisions we don't take. So one of the most humbling quotes I ever heard was, "You are exactly where you're supposed to be." Your life today is a sum of all of the decisions you took or didn't. Now, thinking of my daughter Haley, we always used to have this debate. Just because you don't like the truth doesn't mean it's not the truth. And therefore, if I need to change, if I want to change, and I encourage you to do the same, it is the actions you have to take. And that's getting harder and harder to do in amongst the clutter of life and the expectations on us. So as we reinvent, we are committed to grow our team to 100 officers. Why? Because 100 officers on the ground, making sure that businesses are thriving throughout, will ensure results, will ensure success, will ensure we bake more pies. And as much as the politicians irritate me, as I'm sure they do everybody on this call, or that will listen to it later, there isn't enough money to solve the education problem. We don't spend enough on education. Yes, it is by far one of our biggest budgetary items. We don't spend enough money there. We don't spend enough money on public health care and don't have enough to spend on them. Well, okay. So if we want the life we want, if we see the future that we'd love to have, guess what? Somebody's got to build it. Somebody's got to see it, and then they've got to build it. And entrepreneurs and people in business generally are those types of people. But we've got a little lost. We've got a little bit distracted. We're constantly worrying about everybody and everything else, except understanding where it is that we need to be. And of course, we've got a whole lot of identified areas where those 100 offices could be. Now, the sad reality is, looking at who's on this call, some of you are already clients. And this was a fascinating conversation with a business owner last week who said to me they'd been looking for a coach for their business for a long time. They'd grown it, they got funding, they got traction, and they got to a point where they realized they've hit a bit of a ceiling. And welcome to the real world, that's normal. We all go through life where we grow, we plateau, it gets comfortable, but then also uncomfortable. We probably slip back a little bit, and then we need an intervention to help us grow again. Think back to school and most of the evolutions of your life. In the Southern Hemisphere especially, between December and January, you went from the hero in nursery school to a nobody in grade 1, sub A, when I was still there. You went from a hero in standard 5, grade 7 to a nobody over Christmas. Again, when you matriculated to first year varsity. You went from knowing what you're doing, getting a promotion, getting your letter, big smile on your face, increase to, oh crap, I'm now the manager of this department. And in an instant, that growth needs something else to take me to the next level. But she was looking for a coach, and she was really struggling to find one. And I said, well, how were you struggling to find? And she said a fascinating thing. She said, well, nobody talks about their coach. Now, I know that to be normal, because if you've had heart surgery or cancer treatment or any other major life health scare, unless somebody asks you about your doctor because they've got a similar problem, you don't talk about it. The doctor may have saved your life yesterday. Did you take out a billboard, put it in a newsletter, put out social media posts to thank the doctor, tag them, do the reviews, all the good stuff that we expect people to do of our business? No, I'm just grateful to be alive. And if somebody doesn't ask me who my doctor was, I'm not going to say. But it was fascinating going through that search for her. And she said, because I knew I needed something, but because nobody was talking about it, I couldn't find it. And then actually one of our suppliers and a client of mine put out a post to say, you cannot be on business on your own. You need a range of different people. And she thanked specific people. And she says that was the first time she saw somebody publicly talk about the advantage and the benefit and actually name their coach. I thought, yeah, that's sad, but true. So if you are an existing client, maybe you want to mention it, but not mention it for the benefit of the coach. Of course, they get more clients, it'll be good for them. Mention it for the benefit of the business out there that is searching. Point A and point B, there's a gap. Because what would life be like if your suppliers had a coach? If every single person that you bought from had a coach and had a thriving business, how much better would their service offering be for you? If every single one of your best clients had a coach, your best customers that buy from you the most, if their business was thriving, how much do you think they'd buy from you? The same or more? Your service providers, your accountant, your financial advisor, your web designer, your labor broker, if they were thriving, how much better would it be for you? And I know we're busy. But for us to succeed, for us to create world abundance, we need to think a little broader than yesterday's emergency that seems to suck up all of my diary time today. We need to think, how do we in business, in whatever level you are, how do we grow the pie? How do we bake more pies? Who do we need to work with, collaborate with, open doors for, so that thriving can happen? Because we're going to have a lot of distraction. Elections next year, local elections, only the end of the year. And you're already seeing all the politicking and the increase and throwing stones. And we've been through this for more than 30 years. When there's election, everybody goes arms folded. Let's just wait and see a little bit. Let's just see what's going to happen. Politicians are going to promise things that they can't deliver. Some might deliver some of what they deliver. Some might deliver none. They will come with different colors. They will say the same thing that they said before and they didn't deliver. And we magically think, okay, well, let's wait and see. And then nothing happens. So let's go back to the question I asked you earlier on. Are you making enough money? Now, here's the reality. It doesn't matter who's in power. Nobody is putting more money in your bank account tomorrow. Nobody. Depending on who's in power, they might take more money out of your bank account through whatever laws and taxes and things they can think of. But nobody is coming to put more money in your bank account tomorrow. Nobody. So, okay, we're leading from the front. We are reinventing ourselves for the benefit of businesses across the board. We know that where we are as a society, as a country, as a business community, is not where the growth and success is going to happen. It's going to happen outside of that. Simple as that. So I want to encourage you, depending on where you're sitting today, to do something, to take action to get results. So if you're an existing client, we love working with you because we love people and we love business and we love creating a thriving environment. But if you're an existing client, then reach out to your coach and ask them for a realignment. Now, maybe you can still squeeze it in this year. And if you could, that's better. Because then you can actually go enjoy your holiday because you've got clarity around the future. Maybe you can't squeeze it in this year. Great, then you do it in January. Because if I can see a future, I'll build it. And it's amazing. 2 people get cancer. And sadly, this is a relevant topic because we've all been through this. 2 people get cancer. One will see a future, one will not. Despite the treatment, the one that doesn't see a future will almost always die soon. Because if I see a future, I'll build it. I'll do that with my health. I'll do it with my relationships. I'll do it with my bank account. I'll do it with my business. I'll do it with a customer. But if I don't see a future, I will not build it. I will procrastinate. I will wheel spin. I'll go round and round in circles and I won't build it. So if you've got a coach, set about a realignment so you can get absolute clarity on that future. Because we have got a lot more tools and resources available to ensure that you build that future faster. We've never been as equipped to do that as we are at the moment. So that's the one category of people that might be listening to this. Another category of person saying, well, I'm not a client. I might have been a client, or I've seen you guys around, or maybe you're listening to this, you've never even heard of us. Is there a gap between where you are and where you want to be? Is there a gap between where you are and where you want to be? And if that gap has been there for a while, if it's frustrating you, if it's irritating you, if you got to the point where you're not actually hurtful because you keep talking about it, you keep trying to figure it out, but that gap doesn't seem to ever get close enough, fast enough. Gets closer and then it disappears, gets closer, then it disappears. If you are that person, maybe type in yes into the chat box and we'll get one of our coaches to talk to you to see how we bridge that gap. Because business funds and fuels and provides for life. That's what it's there for. If it's the other way around and you're a slave to that business and that gap is never getting to where you want it to be fast enough, well, then something's got to change and the growth will sit outside of where you're currently at. So existing client, book a realignment. Gap, frustrated, not happy with that gap, type yes in the chat box. Spend some time on our website and let's see how we can bridge that gap for you. And then some of you have been hovering around Action Coach for years because you've got to that half stage of life. Bob Buford in his book called it half time, where you want to go from success to significance. You want to go from a world where you were consuming to a world where you can contribute. Well, then maybe you need to be one of our 100 officers. Maybe you need to be the person that loves business and loves helping others and is passionate about making a difference. Because if we're all going to sit around and wait, good luck to all of us. So you choose which category you're in. Book a realignment. If you've got a coach, speak to them today. Send them a message right now. There's a gap. You're not happy with that gap. Type in yes in the chat box. Let's talk. Or I've been hovering, I've been listening, been watching, and maybe now the timing is right. Maybe you type in coach. Type in coach because you want to be a coach. You want to consider a coach. You want to see how you can add value to others through your experience. And then maybe you're one of the 100 officers. Because world abundance is not that difficult. It truly isn't. A business that can be around for 30 years and make its annual turnover in 3 months, its annual profit every month. It seems impossible until you actually sit down, create the future that you can see, build a plan to help you get there, and have somebody walking in your corner, ensuring you take action. And that's the very reason why this business is called Action Coach. It's not called Maybe Tomorrow Coach. It's not called When I Get a Chance Coach, when I feel like it, when I just finish this project, when the interest rates come down, when the economy gets better, when there's a new politician in power. It is called Action Coach for a reason. Our life requires that we take action. And when we do, even if it's the wrong action, we get feedback. And with feedback, we can change the action and tweak it and mold it and fix it. But if we don't take action, decades seem to disappear. And looking around the room, many of you listening are like me, not getting any younger. And that rest of life is shorter than what was in the rearview mirror. That doesn't mean you're done and dusted. That just means it's now time to take different actions. So that's why we're doing it. That's why we've brought you here today, to give you a bit of a view of what we're up to, why we're up to it, and how that offering is a lot more expensive. And it is only, and I have a friend, one in particular, that gets really, really sensitive about this because they're a lot more esoteric. They believe a lot more, in the universe will provide, and business is actually bad. Here is something I know without a shadow of a doubt. Business is the only thing that sustains life. Drinking water, business. Communication, business. Entertainment, business. Food, business. We cannot sustain life without thriving businesses. And that's not the norm. So we will do what we need to do. You can support us in the ways I've already suggested, and look out for many, many more, I think, pretty cool initiatives coming out. So as I said, our ABOS system, our ActionCOACH business operating system, the whole tech platform will be launched later this month. It'll start rolling out early next year. On top of that, we're going to be doing a regional roadshow between February and March. So, look out for those invitations to come and spend some meaningful time with us face to face, and a whole pipeline of new products and services, all designed to ensure that people in business thrive. So there's a little bit of time for some Q&A. If you've got some questions, you're welcome to type them in. Don't forget to book your realignment. If you need to, say yes if there's the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And then, of course, type in coach if you need to be one of those 100 officers. So any questions? Any questions about the company, about the rebrand, about the direction, you have the opportunity to ask, and we gladly deal with those. Otherwise, thank you for joining us. And please, if you haven't already subscribed on our social media channels, you'll see ActionCOACH Southern Africa on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram. Go to the website, download some of the free stuff. The tools are there. Get them for yourself. Don't sit and be frustrated with life. It is honestly not necessary. Len, is that Len Deacon? We have spoken many, many, many times over the years. So great that you could join us. Thanks for that. So we can restart those conversations. And always remember, business sustains life. If there's a gap, you know where you need to come to solve that. So really appreciate your time. We will post the recording if you want to share it with anybody else. Those that didn't manage to attend, we will be sharing it live as well. And let's go create some world abundance, because that is our responsibility. The last thing I'll leave you with is a saying that was said to me a little while ago. There are millions of people that might have what you want. Millions. A bigger house, better car, they fly first class, take more exotic holidays, whatever. There's millions of people that might have what you want. But there are billions with a B, as John Robbie used to say on 702. Billions of people that will go to bed tonight dreaming, hoping, praying for what you already have. And whilst that could be scary, I think that's quite empowering. It's quite inspirational that we have the opportunity to make an impact and make a difference. We'll do our bit. We look forward to working with you and you doing yours. So thanks for joining us, and we look forward to engaging with you soon. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.